stuck in an endless tunnel in which time moves 24 times faster. 8 characters struggle to make sense of it all. Not only are they stuck, but they also find hidden rooms, specimen jars with creepy stuff inside, and other dubious things that scream Jeffrey Dahmer. But what is Dahmer doing in China? And why is time running 24 times faster here? Well, let's find out as we beat the Endless Loop in Endless Loop 2018. We open on a woman having car troubles on the side of the road. She's trying to call for help, but in typical horror film fashion, can't seem to get a signal. Of course, a truck driver happens to be passing by and very eagerly invites her to hitch a ride. However, before the creepy driver can persist any further, another vehicle pulls up behind and she quickly rushes to them for assistance. This driver seems a lot nicer and even gives the trucker the benefit of the doubt, claiming he probably meant no harm after she shared her concerns with him. However, looks can be deceiving. As the woman goes to adjust her seat, she feels the cold bloody hand of a corpse chilling in the back seat. She's shocked into silence when shortly after the driver slams on the brakes, grabs a wrench and beats the woman unconscious. Yeah, Zombieland rules, my friends. Check the back seat when entering a vehicle. Especially a stranger's vehicle, right? Lifeless corpse on the backseat? Red flag. Also, psychopaths are the nice guys, not the creepy guys. Although the creepy guys might be sociopaths, so perhaps she made the right choice still, I guess. Well, thankfully, this was just a story being told by a passenger on a bus. Not sure if that's the best road trip tale to be sharing, but he swears that it's a true story and that the police are still looking for the woman. Now, moments later, based on heavy traffic notifications, the bus driver asks everyone if they mind a detour through the mountains. No one objects. Their new route, though, leads to a tunnel, and after they enter the tunnel, a mysterious man is seen standing in the middle of the road. They stop and let him on, without anyone questioning what he's doing all the way out here, in the middle of a tunnel off the beaten road without a car. Well, meanwhile, another passenger, a pregnant woman who is arguing with her, let's say baby daddy, gets frustrated with him and throws her phone out the window. Not a good idea. Why? Well, duh. After driving for a while, a rational man asks the driver if they're familiar with this road, since the longest tunnel in the country should only take 15 minutes to travel through, but they have been going for more than 20 at this point. The driver admits that he's only heard of this path but never traveled it, which is not reassuring, and with the lack of any other cars so far, they eventually decide it would be probably safer to turn around and head back. However, even after driving back towards the entrance for more than 30 minutes now, they still can't find a way out. Hey, at least nobody's high in that bus. Otherwise, we'd all be going crazy. I mean, have you ever rode an elevator with somebody who had been smoking too much before? Now, they eventually stop, and after some light arguing among the passengers and the driver, the soon-to-be single mother gets off the bus to see her phone that was thrown out the window. She claims she threw it shortly after they entered, with another passenger, a quiet boy who's working on a Rubik's puzzle, confirming that she tossed it exactly 246 meters from the entrance. Asians, right? Obviously, he is a bigger math genius than all other passengers and counted the number of lights to conclude the exact distance traveled, since she threw the phone out. Now, the rational passenger at this point says that sometimes vision can be misleading, which is a fair point, so he proposes they hold onto a rope and walk the tunnel to confirm its size. The mother offers up her knitting wool as a rope substitute, and the rational man, along with the suspicious stranger who boarded the bus last, walk down the tunnel with it. Eventually, the yarn runs out, yet they conveniently find a strand of fishing wire on the ground. They tie the wool to it and continue their expedition. A little while later, despite walking a straight line and in the opposite direction, they approach the backside of the bus they came from. Okay, at this point everyone starts to theorize what could be going on. From it being ghostly activity to drug-induced hallucinations, even gravity displacement is mentioned. Now, there are some people who get a kick out of drugging other people, right? It's a shitty thing to do, but some people do that stuff. But if I were in this position, believing we're all tripping on something would be my first guess, you know? I once got so high in my late teens, I legit got lost in my own neighborhood after having spent close to 20 years roaming those alleyways and streets every single day. What I mean is this: stay away from endless tunnels when you're high. After all the speculation gets them nowhere, they decide to set up a table and gather all of their food, water, and supplies for long-term survival. The bus driver refuses to share at first, even threatening everyone with a wrench, until the rational man diffuses the situation by offering to pay the driver for the supplies. That's not very logical, but you know. But big up for spreading out the supplies. It's a simple yet effective way to know how many days you have until you turn into a human-eating human. Finally, the 8 of them are introduced. Let's make this uncomplicated, okay? We got the bus driver, the insurance salesman, the single mother-to-be, the thought, not my words, the big brain math brother, his guardian sister, the rational man who also just happens to be a tunnel engineer, and most likely, if anybody dies in this movie, the first one to die, because rationality and entertainment don't go together if you guys haven't spent enough time on TikTok to figure that out yet. And also we got, of course, the mystery stranger who boarded last. Now the floozy woman refuses to eat the ramen noodles they have, calling it junk food. Yeah, if I were next to her, I would wholeheartedly agree with her, reach out for the noodles and remain in peaceful calm, knowing that I will still be alive in 3 days. Now unsure what to do, half the group goes traveling the tunnel for clues, while the other half sleeps in the bus. And after waking up from their nap, they find themselves, including the bus, coated in a lot of dust. Now as they check the supply stash, they find that it has all spoiled. Now, all these facts obviously leads the group to conclude that time must move faster in this tunnel than normal, at the rate of about 1 hour equaling 1 day, meaning it's 24 times faster, right? As Rational Man reviews the map for clues, the lights suddenly flicker and go out, as he seemingly gets grabbed in the dark. Told ya. The bus driver turns the headlights on and they find the bloody trail leading away. Now, not wanting to leave the Rational Man alone though, Mystery Man follows a trail, soon followed by the rest of the group. Flickering lights, followed by darkness and a subsequent kidnapping, leaving nothing but a bloody trail behind. Yeah, no thanks, there's no way I would go check this out. But the bloody trail ends at a hollow wall that they quickly destroy and find a hidden wall behind, as if they were stuck in a video game. Unfortunately, this isn't an exit though, but instead leads to an old, dusty red room filled with antiques. The most troubling thing though they find are 5 specimen jars filled with severed hands, all with missing ring fingers. Yeah, meaning we got an endless tunnel in which time runs 24 times faster, while seemingly also being the hideout of some murderer. This is something new, I love it. More importantly, however, there is no trace of Rational Man, right? He's completely gone. Now looking for clues, Mystery Man eventually finds the schematics for the tunnel they're in. It shows 6 tunnels in total to go through before they find a way out, but the exits to each one aren't detailed. It does, however, show that there is a path to the next tunnel somewhere in this very room, so they all start looking around for a hidden door. If I've learned anything from secret facilities, the secret passageway is always behind the bookshelf. Eventually, they find it behind a calendar though, which is almost like a bookshelf, and open it and head deeper into the mystery. Let's review the things so far anyway. When entering the tunnel and seeing a man just standing there, we probably should have asked him a few questions as to how or why he is out here. Not sure why nobody even acknowledges how odd this is, just standing in a tunnel on an off-road path with no vehicle himself, right? Or at least hiking gear to indicate he was getting those 10k steps today. And once we are in this tunnel and figure out that this is an endless loop, well, that's the second time to ask this guy if he knows anything. But we also have to give props where props are due, right? Gathering supplies was a smart step, but Floozy's decision not to eat was a foolish one for herself. This is not the time to be picky, right? We need to keep our strength up and eat whatever we have available. Also, to use a yarn as a guideline to measure the length of the tunnel was a smart idea. It's always good to leave breadcrumbs behind. In this case, not necessarily to avoid getting lost, but to measure the dimensions of this unreal death trap. Of course, the moment they arrived back at the end of the bus, the yarn just got obsolete, as this should have been impossible. The only thing to do after this, in my opinion, and after having recovered from the shock this experience would carry with it, would be to follow the same path we just went on both sides of the tunnel. Now, whenever stuck in a foreign place, rule number 1 should be to figure out exactly where you are and what the floor plan looks like. This gives a sense of security and confidence while also allowing us to be efficient in finding ways out. The new tunnel they end up in is similar to the first, but with a lot of stuff scattered around. They also find another bus also covered in dust, indicating the time runs perhaps similarly in here. The bus driver immediately rushes in and checks the food supply box, with the salesman close behind him. They wrestle for a moment, with the latter eventually taking the box to be shared with everyone else. However, the driver discovers a handgun and uses it to demand the box back. I would give him the box back, and the moment he grabs it, go for a dropkick, get the gun, take the box back, and exile this guy. You are banished, my friend. And as always, check the gun for ammo too, right? If it's loaded, nice. If not, well, at least one rotten apple has been sorted out with the help of it. Now, Mystery Man eventually talks to the bus driver, not to get food or seduce him, but to convince him to help the group find a way out, instead of agitating everyone else. The bus driver initially refuses, but after the other guy points out that even with everyone's share of food, he won't last forever, he reconsiders and helps. At the same time, the remaining 6 survivors split into 2 groups of 3, each checking a different path of the tunnel. As long as they stay in groups of at least 3, I think this might not be too bad of an idea. However, leaving the bus driver, or anybody for that matter, alone is probably not a good idea considering what happened before. Moments after traveling together, the salesman takes this opportunity and tries a move on his companion, until he gets kneed to the ground. She retreats to the bus, shares what happened with the bus driver, and he gets furious. Now, they enjoy some food together, and then, that's right. While they're distracted, the salesman sneaks up and steals a pack of ramen. He almost gets away, but accidentally knocks a pipe over, drawing all attention to himself. Now, multiple things happen next, with a pretty predictable progression. So the bus driver gives chase to the salesman and the fight breaks out. As they're going at it, the salesman is in shock after witnessing someone, or something for that matter, approaching from behind his opponent. We then cut to the salesman being back with the group as he emotionally tells them about what happened. Now, of course, the fact that he forced himself onto the girl before kind of proves that he is an asshole, right? So whatever story he comes up with will be doubted immediately. And sure enough, once the dead body of the bus driver is found, sort of impaled by a pipe, it is quickly blamed onto the salesman. Now, someone should check the bus driver's body for his gun, by the way. If he doesn't have it on him, someone else has it, including the new unseen killer on the loose. Now, the group returns to the bus and inspects the food stash. After crawling under the vehicle to grab a dropped ramen pack, they find a manhole and decide to give it a shot. The ladder leads them to a room very similar to the previous red room we have seen, even with another exit behind another calendar. The television in the room suddenly turns on, with camera footage of a woman chained inside a large cave crevice battling for her life. Alright. The third tunnel is again similar in design, but much less hygienic. It almost seems like the deeper they go in, the more time has passed since its inception or whatever. In fact, they find this tunnel's version of the bus filled with rats, bugs, and snakes. Talk about avoiding starvation, right? Snake meat tastes like chicken. I've been to Cambodia, my friends. Anyway, after another battle for food rations, the salesman shows that he has bagged the bus driver's gun as he waves it in order to pressure all remaining characters to pass their food rations over to him. Having no choice, the group complies. As they hand over the foods, they still continue trying to find an exit. Now, even if I had the gun, using it against my team members is a terrible idea, isn't it? Especially if there is a killer or worse, supernatural entity on the loose in here. Now, the food isn't a lot, but I would say we would survive for a few days with it together. Until it gets critical, actions like these are counterintuitive because they may serve short term, but medium term, or when push comes to shove, like we're attacked by something, you really want to have allies that have your back, no? Now, the group finally finds an actual end to this tunnel instead of an infinite loop, with a very obvious door as opposed to a hidden one. Inside is yet another old red room. However, this one has no secret passage behind its calendar, and the specimen containers are filled with small animals instead. As the television comes on again, showing the woman in the flooded cave, Salesman shoots the screen, claiming he figured out how to get to the next tunnel. Okay, how about not wasting bullets like an angry Amish person, right? Now, he figures out that the previous 2 pathways revealed themselves only after someone died, so he wants someone else in the group to sacrifice themselves so that they can move on to the next area. Now, that's a pretty dumb leap in logic. You see, Rational Man's disappearance, which isn't technically a death since nobody has been found, did lead them to discovering the first room. However, the bus driver's death had literally nothing to do with them just happening to discover that manhole underneath the bus. So there's a disconnect there, obviously. But have you ever tried to convince a crazy person that he or she is crazy? Yeah, good luck with that, right? Now imagine that crazy person you're trying to convince to be crazy and crazily waves with a handgun after he shut the screen of a random TV. Yeah, I guess it's time to distract that dude, dropkick him, take away his gun, and test his hypothesis on himself. It's called Uno Reverse, my friends. That's the way to go. But that's not what happens, of course. Well, it sort of does, but not quite. As he chooses to sacrifice a chick from before, the mystery man acts like he's seeing someone or thing approaching from behind, pretending to be experiencing the same thing the salesman had when he fought the bus driver. It works as the salesman starts to panic, allowing the other dude to wrestle the gun away. Well played, but badly converted as we quickly learn. The mystery man questions the man about the story from the bus, almost like he's truly trying to solve the case. But the salesman finds a glass shard on the ground and uses it to hold the pregnant woman hostage. This pressures the mystery man to give up the gun, while the salesman now urges the pregnant woman to shoot the guy if she wants her baby to survive. Talking about mad people, man. She actually does it, however the shot doesn't seem to kill him. As the man gloats, Guardian Sister smacks him with a piece of wood. Better late than never, I guess, but the salesman must be too hard-headed, because it's not very effective. He grabs her by the neck and keeps everyone at gunpoint and drags her down the hall to the Red Room. Once there, he starts to TKO her. Now the math genius eventually comes to the rescue and shoves the salesman away, receiving a severe beating for doing so and being almost drowned in a nearby aquarium. Guardian Sister tries once more with the smack him in the head plan, and it again does seemingly nothing. He must seriously have a thick skull or something. The salesman now simply shoots the girl, and yes, during all the fighting and murder, Floozy was still just getting herself dressed up. Finally ready though, she approaches the salesman for another flirt attempt. The salesman eventually even shoots the girl and shows that he doesn't trust anyone anymore by choking the Floozy chick as well. However, while doing so, the lights go out again, and when they come back on, Floozy's holding a sword into salesman's stomach. Surprisingly, she seems almost as surprised as he is. Now the mother and the injured mystery man finally arrive as well, and Floozy also happens to find the next tunnel through the back of a wardrobe. They all enter to find the fourth tunnel, same as the others, but this one is covered in barbed wire and mannequins. Lovely. The mother begins to go into labor now. Okay. They leave her with the math genius as Mystery and Floozy rush ahead to examine the rest of the tunnel for an exit. Mother delivers her baby, but unfortunately it doesn't survive, possibly because of the time dilation. It's not quite sure. The other two find the bus, which here is covered in Christmas lights. Now Floozy reveals she stole the gun and happens to have a single bullet left. With weapon in hand, she interrogates Mystery, trying to find out more about his origin. However, he insists that he shared everything already. Suddenly, she sees the salesman as good as new outside the bus. Freaked out by this, understandably, she rushes out and uses her one bullet on shadows before running further down a tunnel where it gets pitch dark. After passing dozens of salesmen corpses, she arrives at the vanity table and has a seat when a pair of hands reach from behind and take her out clean. After returning to the group, Mystery and the other survivors immediately find the next tunnel. Somehow, it's not really explained, but hey, we'll take it, I guess. Now, they even see an exit in this tunnel, but before they arrive at this door, the mother reveals a knife and stabs Mystery in his abdomen for seemingly no apparent reason, causing him and all the leaves in this area to die as well. As he drifts off, he wakes up in a medical laboratory. That's right, everything experienced so far was just a dream. Well, except for one thing, the opening scene was being told as a story. You see, the man on the other operating table is that same kidnapper and murderer from that story. He takes women who are hitchhiking, brings them to isolated areas, and slowly kills them over several days. The woman we saw on TV was actually his latest victim, in danger of drowning from local rainfall. The killer was discovered by law enforcement after his most recent kidnapping, and while fleeing, crashed in a tunnel and is now in a coma. In order to find the victim, they got a remarkable psychotherapist and are using a machine to send him into the killer's mind where he can figure out her whereabouts. Mystery Man is that therapist. So now in this real world, the therapist reviews the case with a detective. The different survivors we witnessed on the bus were actually parts of the killer's psyche. The rational man was his social side, the bus driver his violent side, the salesman and Floozy represent his disapproving father and his promiscuous mother, the actual mother is his superego, the guardian sister represents his imaginary friend, and lastly the math genius brother, the small child, represents his inner child. Now one of these personalities is also the criminal intent that drives him to murder, while the others represent him trying to improve and stop the killing. The question is, which is which? Now the therapist is sent back into the killer's mind and confronts the killer's subconscious directly. But all he gets for this though is an exposition dump explaining some of the killer's tragic and abusive childhood. The therapist walks further into the dream, finding the inner child an imaginary friend. Now she is unfortunately revealed to be the criminal personality, convincing the man to take out women by punishing them for being bad, and thanks to his traumatic childhood, he sees all women as being bad. Now he confers with the inner child, and the brother agrees that he doesn't want to kill anymore, being unhappy every time he listens to this imaginary friend. He tries to reveal the last victim's location, but sister is angry at this and drags the brother away by his hair. The therapist gives chase as they run through a pretty epic montage of traumatic events throughout the killer's life. They eventually arrive at the theater, and out of the darkness on stage comes the criminal intent of the therapist himself. By linking minds, any of the therapist's alternate personalities can cross over as well. He only has one other, thankfully, but it's all the angry, violent, and dark thoughts he has acquired from dealing with psychotic minds throughout his career. The Shadow Man reveals that he took out the other passengers throughout the tunnel, and now encourages the inner child to kill again. The therapist shows his true mastery over dealing with minds, however, as he instead is able to show the inner child the true kindness of a mom. This convinces the killer to not spread any hatreds to others and never kill again. Despite the Shadow's best efforts to stop this, our main character is able to guide him to the exit, allowing the killer to awake from his coma. Doing so allows him to immediately inform the police of the victim's location and save her life. Now unfortunately, the therapist still has to face his own shadow side, otherwise his own criminal intent will be in control of his consciousness when he awakes. They have a fight, however the Shadow keeps recovering to full health, like this annoying final boss in virtually every JRPG ever made, dragging the game out for another 6 hours. So out of options, he makes the ultimate sacrifice to stop himself from going over to the dark side. He pulls out a gun and Tyler Durden's his alter ego, causing it to disappear, but also causing himself to fall into a coma. A bittersweet ending, but with a ray of hope, as we see the therapist wandering near a tunnel's entrance as a bus pulls up to let him on. So there goes the start of another endless loop, I guess. But since he was able to break the cycle of hate in a killer's mind, maybe he can break free from his own. Anyway, my friends, hope you've enjoyed this one. It was a special movie, not gonna lie, pretty interesting. Thanks for watching, you take care, and I see you again next week. Binge another one.